And this is the Rita Cosby Show. We're taking your calls, everybody. 1-800-321-8828. 1-800-321-8828. What do you think President Barack Obama is going to say during the State of the Union address? And do you agree with me that you think it's going to be more of a campaign speech than a State of the Union address? It's already basically a campaign speech when you think about it. Here's a president running for re-election. He's there in front of both houses of Congress. You got the Supreme Court justices. Hopefully he won't scold them again. So he's got that. And then you've got the whole world watching. You know, all the networks cover it. They break in. They have it. It's, you know, it's a very important address. And it's very tough times in America right now. I mean, if you look at where we stand, 8.5% unemployment, very, very difficult situations, not just here, but also abroad. Look at what's happening with the Straits of Hormuz with Iran and Syria and elsewhere. It is a very tenuous time and very serious things to talk about. So will he focus on these things, or will he try to pitch his campaign package? Joining us now to talk about all of this is Brad Gerstman. He's a partner at Gotham Government Relations. How you doing, Brad?
Great, Rita. How are you? It's great to be on with you.
Always love having you on the show, Brad. Always great to have you on. And I know that you follow all the politics closely. I'm going to ask you also a little bit about the GOP race. But first, let's get to the State of the Union. What do you think the president's going to do? Do you think it's going to be a very divisive speech in terms of, hey, look, they don't want this. We want this. We want inequity. The other party doesn't want to do that.
Yes, and great minds think alike, and your idea that this is going to be a campaign speech is right on. I've heard the president's at various events where he was testing out the various kinds of speeches, and they were all campaign speeches, and it's clear that he's going to utilize that tonight, talking, of course, about the middle class and how the middle class has disappeared in America. And
like inequities in the tax system that he feels need to change.
And the ultra-rich and the divide between, the haves and the have-nots, and this is our last opportunity. You see, as you know, and everyone else who follows politics knows that there's nothing the president can get done legislatively or policy-wise. It's impossible to move his agenda under this current circumstances.
Well, and it's interesting, Brad. It's not just even the Republicans. I mean, even fellow Democrats are frustrated with so many things. It'll be it'll be fascinating to see on the campaign trail, as we've seen already in a number of places where Democrats don't even want to be with him.
Right. Well,
it's like, I'm out of state that day, Mr. President.
Yep, it's more than simply just agreeing or disagreeing. Well, there's a couple things at play. One is obviously it's all politics. Do I want to be seen with a president with a popularity rating as low as him? That was the Bush effect that he had in the last election. You don't want to be around him. It becomes a toxic thing. But additionally, I'm finding and everyone's seeing is that legislators themselves are just too scared to take positions on anything, especially in such a big election year. So, in as much as they may not want to be around the president, Congress's popularity rating is way below the president's popularity rating. And they still, each member individually, no matter what party it is, most of them will just decide not to take positions on things because they're for fear of, being ousted.
Which means a terrible year for the American public. I mean, to me, it means a total gridlock. They're angry at this president. They're frustrated. Some of them are embarrassed. Even Democrats, I'm talking about, by this president, by the approval ratings and the problems that, And so here, that means that the American public's going to basically get nothing basically done in their favor this year.
Nothing at all will be done this year. That's fact. You could sign up for that for sure, and count me as the person who told you so, because this is just about campaigning between now and November, and this is what it's all about. And of course, once you want to start talking about the bigger picture of the GOP and how that's going to factor into this, because the president is in a very interesting position. He's going to sit here. The GOP race obviously is being prolonged because of the various early primaries, and now we're going to see a complete bloodbath, and who's going to benefit but Barack Obama. Although, on the other hand, there was a bloodbath between Hillary and Barack Obama in that primary, and it ended up making Barack Obama clearly a much stronger candidate.
Absolutely, and that's what I tell everybody too. When you see this sort of back and forth, I do think that it makes the candidate stronger. It absolutely does. Let's go to cut number 2. This is Newt and Romney kind of going at it over whether he was a consultant, whether he wasn't a consultant for Freddie Mac. I know this is one of the moments last night, and what I thought was a pretty boring debate. But here's sort of one of the moments where they're kind of going back and forth, and I'll get your reaction, Brett.
And we consistently, for 12 years, running 4 small businesses, stayed away from lobbying precisely because I thought this kind of defamatory and factually false charge would be made.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you were on this stage at a prior debate. You said you were paid $300,000 by Freddie Mac as an historian. They don't pay people $25,000 a month for 6 years as historians. That adds up to about $1.6 million. They weren't hiring you as an historian, and this contract proves that you were not a historian. You were a consultant. It doesn't say that you provided historical experience. It said that you were as a consultant, and you were hired by the chief lobbyist of Freddie Mac, not the CEO, not the head of public affairs, by the chief lobbyist of Freddie Mac.
You know, when you hear that, the back and forth, how do you think they did? Who do you think sort of won that matchup there?
You know, I don't think these are the biggest issues. I really, really don't. I don't think those are the ones that are resonating with people.
I agree. I don't think the American public cares. I think the American public is like, why are you wasting my time on this petty stuff? Let's focus on what matters to me.
But what the one thing that you see is, you know, Romney made a strategical decision in South Carolina and a little bit earlier before that to stop attacking his fellow opponents and instead focusing on Obama. He got destroyed in South Carolina. And now it's got to be clear to him and his camp that you have to keep on the attack. Look, Gingrich went on an absolute tear and an attack mode, you know, as vicious as I've ever seen. And you know something? He came out on top. Apparently what people want to see is they want to see you going after your opponents and making your case in a very aggressive style. That's what people want to see.
Absolutely, they want to see a fighter. By the way, I thought it was interesting, Rick Santorum, I want to play, this is cut number 6, Rick Santorum last night.
Let capitalism work. Allow these banks to realize their losses and create an opportunity for folks who have houses to realize their losses and at least help them out. That's why I proposed in my tax plan. When I talk about 5 areas where I allow deductions, well, one of them would be able to deduct losses from the sale of your home. Right now, you can't do that. You have to pay gains depending on the amount, but you can't deduct the losses. This is something I think is important temporarily to put in place to allow people the freedom to be able to go out and get out from underneath these houses that they're holding on to and at least get some relief from the federal government for doing so.
And one of the other things he did really effectively, Brad, was he was saying, look, I'm different than these guys because, you know, Romney pushed for Romney Care. Gingrich pushed for the individual mandate. They both pushed for the bailout, the bank bailout. I'm different. Is that going to resonate, or are the polls just so high for Gingrich and for Romney right now?
It's just so tough to infiltrate those two guys, you know, Romney and Newt. And but I do think he is the conservative choice, and I think he's making that case much clearer every single day because he has been consistently on the conservative side, and that does. I don't want to speak exactly, you know, from his mouth, but what he says is true.
Yep, it's a very strong case. Brad, thank you. Love having you on.